to talk about body development, self-image, self-perceptions, STIs, contraceptives, and abortion. And we're going to start talking about it with bodies, because every one of us has a body, and because the conversation that we are having in these meetings are not like just theoretical, because every topic we are covering is like an embodied experience. So the bodies are actually main characters of our conversation. So every one of us has a body that changes over time in shape, smell, size, how it can move, and it can be important to have tools to approach the transformation of our body in order to welcome this transformation and to live in our body and through our body with comfort, or acknowledging and embracing discomfort. So going ahead, we thought that could be useful for today to remember what we said at the beginnings of our meetings, so that to support each other in creating a space that can be safer, because body is a topic that can be emotionally activating for someone. We don't know each other's stories, so the idea is to ask ourselves to be collectively responsible, so to pay attention in how we talk about bodies, in what we bring in the discussion, in the approach that we have, in the possible stigmas that maybe our word can carry. And we ask this kind of attentiveness in all the conversation that we are going to have, so in all topics, because as we said at the beginning, there is like no safe space in theory. The safeness of a space is created by the person who moved through it. So it is important to talk about bodies like in general always, and specifically when we're talking about the teenage years, because from the ages of 8, 9, mostly of body begins this process that is called puberty, during which a large number of hormones are released, and these are hormones that the person has never experienced before. And these hormones are responsible for physical changes such as in shape, for example, hips, breasts, or penis, or body hair, and are responsible for a new range of emotions to manage, or the same emotions with definitely different intensity. And it can be super important to start talking about the relationship with our body changing in adolescence, because our body will always change in all our life. We can't know what the story of our body will be. So adolescence can be a period of life in which people start to put some foundation of the relationship with their bodies. Relationship with the bodies that involve self-image and the socially perceived image of their body. These are two concepts that are central elements in the construction and creation of personal identities, because with our bodies we communicate and have access to both physical and social environments. And also here can be interesting to embrace the idea of fluidity, because we know for sure that our body will change, and it is important to talk about it for ourselves, because every one of us has a body, but also in the idea of having conversation with teenagers about their body change, about their changing body and their feelings about it, to bring in the conversation curiosity rather than shame and guilt. And also here, not in an approach that is like body positive in a performative way, because the idea is not to be always super happy and super enthusiastic about the transformation of our body, but the idea is to build and create tools that can allow us to deal also with the whole range of emotion that we can experience, so fear, confusion, frustration, and so on. And it can be important to have conversation in which we don't bring judgment, because we already live in a society that is super judgmental about our bodies. So self-perception is inevitably influenced by social gaze, cultural beauty standards, and messages that are conveyed by media. And it can be a tool actually to understand how much is related and how much our self-imagine and judgment of society are linked. For example, we talked a bit about this when we talk about disability, okay? That is not like an individual topic. It's something that society is responsible for. Disability is like a concept that was created because this society allow the existence of just certain types of bodies. We can say similar things about fatness because we as a society put a huge stigma on fat people and fat bodies when a body has like no moral or ethical value itself. So it can be interesting to understand and to feel that in most cases what we call insecurities about our bodies are usually the stigma and the judgment that society put on certain kind of bodies. And this can be one of the many tools to navigate and approach physical changes in order also like in a psychological way, because in this way we create the space for maintain a somatic psychological balance and a psychological well-being. So going ahead specifically about puberty. Puberty typically occurs between the ages of 8, 9, and 13, 14, and we know that there are generical, medical, and scientific guidelines about what happens to bodies during puberty, always keeping in mind that not all bodies follow the same path, timelines, or partners. So not everything that doesn't go specifically as medicine said is something that is like a problem or pathology. So this can help us to adopt like a non-deterministic and non-pathologizing and not judgmental approach when maybe a teenager or like everyone share with us their experiences about their bodies and their feelings about it. So going ahead, these changes can be like the increase in testicular and penile size, the breakout of pimple, the change in shapes of hips, voice changings, and all these changes are driven by a definitely not gradual increase in the hormones production, hormones such as estrogen and testosterone. And this increased production can combine with like curiosity and desire to explore relationship and bodies, and this can lead to increase of sexual desire. And so all this information can be useful as a tool to be like a good receiver when we are in a conversation with someone, always keeping in mind that each person has their own valid personal narrative and experience of sexual attraction. So if a teenager reports us that they doesn't feel the urge of having sex, it's completely okay. The idea is to try not to put meaning of someone's personal experience, and it's not that those people are different. It's just that there is like a plurality of possibility of existences, and it is important that we pay attention about when the main narrative about what should happen during puberty become like the criteria for people experience to exist or to be valid. So imagining ourselves in a conversation with someone sharing about their bodies, how to emotionally approach the conversation, trying to pay attention and to be non-judgmental. And this can be hard because sometimes we put like judgment in our conversation without having the intention to, and it's completely okay because we all have lived in a society that is super strict and judgmental about bodies. So it can be interesting to understand when we are judgmental without wanting to. Try to put emotional openness in the conversation, so to be open to the plurality of like possible existences, behind our expectation. Okay, so it can happen that someone bring us something that we don't expect while talking about teenage bodies, and it's completely okay. Related to this, the idea of not immediately worrying or problematizing if someone brings us something that we don't expect. And if we are in a conversation in which we feel that some heavy stuff is being shared, it can be a tool to remember that you are not the only one responsible for that situation. Okay, you have other adult figures to relate to. You are not the only one carrying this situation on your shoulders. So if you can and if you want, you have the right to speak with parents or with other trusted adults. Okay, so you have a support system.
Now we move into a topic that is often surrounded by fear, silence, or shame. Are STIs, so sexually transmitted infections. STIs are diverse and they spread in different ways. Some of them are transmitted through fluids or through skin-to-skin contact. Some of them can remain even without symptoms for a long time. So the first important idea here is this, that there is just not one type of STI experience, because there are many and they affect people differently. As you know, our approach in sex education, it's sex positivity, it's sex positive. So the way that we would like to talk about this is without creating any shame. We often hear expression like safe sex, as if it were something absolute, something that can completely eliminate risk of any kind. But in reality, it doesn't exist. 100% safe sex does not exist. And this narrative of absolute safety can sometimes create more stigma than protection. It feels like that people that are living with an STI, they did something wrong, like they were irresponsible or dirty or guilty. But I think that anyone should decide for themselves. And of course, it does not depend on how clean you are or how much educated you are, what's your gender or what's your social status. It's more being in a body that it's in relation with other bodies. So instead of a moralistic approach, we would like to promote, and for you to promote with your teenagers that you work with, an informed approach. Because when the people know how STIs are transmitted, what symptoms to look for, and what tools exist to reduce the risk, they can have a more conscious and more enjoyable sexual life. So we often think of condoms or dental dams as the ultimate protection. And of course, they are very effective tools. But again, they do not provide 100% protection. Some infections are transmitted, as we said before, through skin contacts. For example, like a regular condom for penises, they just protect the penis, like all the area around it. It is not protected, for example, for HPV. So one of the most important practices is regular testing. It's not something that you do only when you are afraid, but it's something that you can integrate in your sexual life as a form of care for yourself and for the people that you're intimate with. You should think about it like going to the dentist or doing some blood test. Because information helps make better decisions. Of course, as we were saying, from a sex positive perspective, it's important to say that people have the right to have a sex in the way they choose, even if this includes sex without any kind of barrier, and as long as it's consensual and informed, because this is really important. You can even decide to have sex without any kind of protection, you and the person or the people that are with you, but it's really important that it's consensual and informed for all the people involved. Okay, moving on the contraception. So basically, contraception is simply a set of tools and methods that help to prevent pregnancy and, of course, not STIs, pregnancies that are not desired. And there are different types: hormonal methods like the pill, barrier methods like condoms or intrauterine devices, and even natural or cycle-based methods. But contraception is just not about biology, it's more about freedom, responsibility, and access. When we talk about contraception, we are talking about the ability to decide if and when and how to deal with your own body. And that decision is deeply connected to someone's life plans and even education and finances and relationships and health. Choosing a method, it's just not about effectiveness. It also depends on personal preferences, and this is something that it's important to keep in mind, because there is not just one that it's better than the other. And it depends on the health conditions, on age, accessibility, and comfort. For example, a method can be perfect for someone and it can be completely wrong for someone else, for another person. That's why it's important that young people can talk with health professionals and trusted adults like yourselves, not to be told what to do, but to be supported in making the best informed decisions for themselves. Of course, we should give and create the space for them to talk as best as they can. Talking about contraception is not only a medical issue, it's also a question of access and therefore of reproductive justice. That means asking who actually has access to these methods and who can afford them, who is expected to take responsibility for them. Historically, as we well know, and still today, most contraceptive responsibility falls on people with uterus, and they are the ones that are expected to take pills to manage hormones and undergo procedures or deal with the side effects. Meanwhile, options for people with penises are very limited. So contraception is also about gender inequality and economic privilege. Some people can easily access a variety of methods while others cannot afford them at all. Or maybe they live in places where access is restricted or denied somehow. So when we talk about contraception with young people, it's important not only to explain the methods, but also to help them understand their rights. And it shouldn't be a luxury, but it's supposed to be a part of bodily autonomy and self-determination. I know that last time we already talked about abortion. Last time we talked about it more as legal procedures in the different countries. And today we would like to go a little bit more deeper So abortion is first and foremost a human right, as we saw last time as well. And this framing it's important for us. Because when we talk about abortion, we are not only talking about a medical procedure, but we are talking about bodily autonomy, health, and dignity, and self-determination. Comprehensive abortion care includes not only the procedure itself, but also access to information, emotional support, and post-abortion care. When people do not have access to safe, timely, and affordable abortion, the consequences are very real. It can put their physical health at risk, but also their mental and social well-being. So when we talk about abortion, we are talking about healthcare. It's not about morality or about punishment or about care, but it's about care and autonomy. And as we were saying last time, every time the law or the government or the religion it's trying to deny this right, and is just putting women's life at risk, because has always been there. Like abortion, it's something that women always try to do and actually did. But if it's not doing in a medical environment and with all the care that we need, it's way more difficult, and of course it's not safe. So it's about our life of women. So how abortion works, pretty much. The abortion interrupts a pregnancy that has already started, and there are two main types: medical abortion and surgical abortion. In the medical abortion, there are two medications, like two pills. The first one is mifepristone. I never understood the pronunciation, that blocks the hormone of progesterone, which is necessary to maintain the pregnancy. And the second one, that usually is gave 2 days after the first one, is misoprostol, and the causes uterine contractions, helping the body expel the pregnancy tissue. A surgical abortion, instead, it's a short medical procedure, and it's performed in a healthcare setting. It's usually quick, and it's done with local anesthesia or light sedation. And something else that we wanted to add, like an important clarification, is that the morning after pill is not an abortion pill. It works before a pregnancy begins by delaying or preventing ovulation. So, of course, if a pregnancy is already there, has already started, the morning after pills, that doesn't interrupt it at all. So if you go to a pharmacy and they try to deny it to you, because they say that they are not, it's against their values, or religion or moral values, like they do here sometimes in Italy, they cannot do it, because it's not an abortion pill, okay? This distinction is often misunderstood, and it's very important for people to have accurate information. Okay, so this part around abortion, it's about the history of abortion as an activist that has activist roots. And so it's the historical perspective. Many safe abortion techniques, that especially those involving the pills, have roots in South American feminist activism. And mostly, of course, in contexts where abortion was illegal, and women and activists created networks of support They share the information, practical guides, and community protocols to help people have safer abortions. And these practices were born out of solidarity and a necessity, and they actually saved a lot of lives. When I was in Mexico, I met with a woman. She's an activist, a feminist activist in San Cristobal de las Casas, and we were talking about these kind of procedures and abortions, and she sent me this digital guide that was made by feminist activists over there, to be able to access to a certain kind of pill that is for the heart. Basically, yeah, it's for the heart, and that was helping you actually to have an abortion safely in your house. And I felt that was really good. That was really cool. It was like 10 years ago. So over time, this scientific medicine, the one that we use today, adopted many of these methods, turning them into medicalized and commercialized procedures. But in this